Albert Einstein, one of the greatest minds in history, was rushed to the hospital on April 17, 1955, at the age of 76. But what happened after his death shocked the world. What if I told you that his brain, yes, his brain, was stolen and studied for decades? How could someone steal the brain of a genius? Why? And did they discover anything extraordinary? Stick around, because today we're diving into one of the most bizarre and fascinating stories about Albert Einstein. When Einstein passed away at Princeton Hospital, his brain was removed without his family's consent by Dr. Thomas Harvey, the pathologist who conducted the autopsy. Harvey claimed he took it for science. But here's where things get weird. He didn't hand it over to researchers right away. Instead, he kept it in jars, preserved it in a chemical solution, and stored it in his basement for years. Imagine that, one of the most brilliant minds in history, sitting in pieces in a jar in someone's basement. Before we dive deeper into what scientists eventually discovered about Einstein's brain, let's address some myths about his life. For example, did you know that Einstein's school grades weren't as bad as people often say? It's a common myth that Einstein failed math or had terrible grades, but the truth is much more nuanced. While it's true he clashed with some of his teachers, so much so that one reportedly told him, "You'll never amount to anything." Einstein's academic performance was actually quite strong in subjects he was passionate about, like mathematics and physics. So where did the myth about Einstein being a bad student come from? It might have stemmed from confusion over the grading system in his school. Back then, the grading system in Germany was inverted compared to today's system, so people misunderstood his records, thinking low numbers were poor grades when they were actually high marks. But let's get back to his brain. What made Einstein's brain so special? When scientists finally began analyzing it decades after his death, they noticed some peculiarities. For one, Einstein's brain had a thicker corpus callosum, the bundle of nerve fibers that connects the two hemispheres of the brain. This might have allowed for better communication between the left and right sides of his brain. Another fascinating finding was the structure of his prefrontal cortex, the area linked to higher-order thinking, decision-making, and planning. Einstein's prefrontal cortex was unusually well developed. Researchers also found differences in the motor cortex, particularly in the area that controls hand movement. Could this be linked to his love for playing the violin? Perhaps. And then there was his parietal lobe, the region of the brain associated with spatial reasoning and mathematical thinking. This area was notably larger and more developed than in an average brain, which might explain his extraordinary ability to visualize complex problems. However, Einstein's brain wasn't perfect. Interestingly, scientists discovered that it had fewer neurons in some areas. Does that mean he wasn't as intelligent as we think? Not at all. Instead, it suggests that his brain had more glial cells, which support and insulate neurons. These glial cells might have played a role in enhancing communication between neurons, making his brain work more efficiently. Here's another question. Could Einstein have been a synesthete? Synesthesia is a condition where people experience a blending of senses, such as seeing colors when they hear music. While there's no direct evidence that Einstein had synesthesia, some speculate that his ability to see physical concepts in his mind's eye might have been related to this phenomenon. But what about his thought process? How did Einstein think? By all accounts, he was a visual thinker. He often described his ideas as images or sensations rather than words. This might explain why he was able to conceptualize groundbreaking theories like relativity in ways that others couldn't. Was Einstein born a genius, or did he become one? It's likely a mix of both. He had an innate curiosity and a unique way of seeing the world, but he also worked incredibly hard to develop his ideas. What's more, he never stopped learning. Neuroscience tells us that learning new things can rewire your brain, creating new neural connections and improving cognitive function. So while not everyone can be Einstein, we can all work to sharpen our minds through continuous learning. In the end, What made Einstein truly remarkable wasn't just the structure of his brain. It was how he used it. His curiosity, perseverance, and ability to think differently are what set him apart. And that's something we can all aspire to. So the next time you doubt your potential, remember, you're not unlucky or doomed to fail. Like Einstein, you can overcome challenges and achieve greatness in your own way. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and dive into the fascinating story of Einstein with me. If you enjoyed it and want to learn more about intriguing topics like this, don't forget to give this video a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me bring more stories to life. See you in the next one.